What's up, gamer girls? It's me, Banana, and recently I have seen a lot of discourse about the upcoming attribute changes that could come to Hypixel Skyblock and are currently being tested on the alpha. If you didn't know, they're adding attributes to every single item across the game, or at least they're experimenting with the idea about it. And usually whenever they experiment with something, it just comes out in a bit of a more balanced state. And there have been a lot of conflicting comments on this. Some people absolutely love the change. Some people, though, really hate it. In this video, I'm going to be going over the positives and the negatives of this change, because we just got to go deep into this and figure out if this change is good for the game or if it is absolutely going to ruin the game and be the worst thing ever. So if you enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate a like or a subscription. The first thing that I want to go over is the negatives of this, because I feel like that is more pertinent to the conversation, and it is the thing that people have been talking about most. And that is that the Crimson Isle gear is going to become a lot less valuable. When you're looking at the stats of something like Storm Armor compared to that of Aurora Armor, the difference is surprisingly small, especially when you're looking at Aurora to Storm. When you're looking at something like Necron to Crimson, there is a bigger jump in a difference in stats, but they are still not huge, and the price difference in these sets is absurd. Even if getting the attributes is still going to be super expensive, you're dumping way more money into making an Infernal Aurora set that is basically going to become just a marginally better set than a Storm set with the same attribute setup. Getting the Crimson Isle sets right now is a billions on billions of coins purchase, and getting the sets from the dungeons, it's not going to be billions of coins. It's obviously going to cost more on the attributes than the sets cost right now, but it is still going to be way less than the cost of Crimson Essence and the Teeth and the time that you have to put into leveling your Infernal set to its maximum level, which is now not as good. Before we get further in the video, I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about the upcoming Minecraft Legends game, and if you're interested in buying that, then I recommend getting it on Kinguin. Kinguin is a website that has some very awesome offers for gamers that allows you to get a lot of games at a cheaper price. You can go on Kinguin and get a lot of different games for super cheap. Minecraft Legends literally isn't even out yet, and you're still able to get it for 20% off by default, saving yourself a decent amount of money. Whatever you search on here, you can probably find for a pretty good discount. Destiny 2 Lightfall, which came out like a month and a half ago, you can get for 51% off on Kinguin, meaning that you can go and play this game for a lot cheaper and enjoy yourself, because this DLC is super fun. With both these things in my cart, I'm getting something that would usually cost $90 for like 57 bucks. And if you apply discount code BANANA10, you're able to get an extra 10% off on any purchase that you do on Kinguin. Their support team is fantastic, so if you run into any issues with your purchases for some reason, they will be there to help you 24/7. So if you're trying to save money on any game purchase that you're making, especially the upcoming Minecraft Legends game, go to the video description, click the link to Kinguin, and save money on all your purchases with code BANANA10. Thank you so much to Kinguin for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into the content. The one other negative feature that I've seen people mentioning about this attribute update is the possibility of power creep. When you're seeing buffs to weapons like Hyperion or Terminator or any of the already OP things in the game and they're getting a bit better, it can be scary for the game, because you already see people dealing such high damage with Hyperion, and now they're going to be able to throw on Elite, and they're going to be able to put Midas Touch on a Daedalus Axe, and they're going to be able to have super tanky Goldor armor. It is a scary thing, and that, I believe, is a valid concern. You do want to balance this around the rest of the game, and you don't want to push everything to be 25% easier because they have attributes for it, because that would not be super good. However, I do believe that the positives of this update are going to far outweigh the negatives, so let's get into the benefits of this attribute system coming to every other item. Firstly, I want to talk about enchantments, because enchantments have gotten a bit bloated. When I look at my Hyperion and I just see this screen filled with things, it is confusing to new players, and adding more enchantments just gets more and more and more confusing over time, because it is just another thing that you're going to add to your weapon, and there's pretty much nothing stopping you. Obviously, there are some enchants that conflict with each other, but they can just keep adding enchants, and you're probably just going to keep putting them on weapons, and that is not healthy for the game when it comes to teaching to new players, or just having old players whenever they keep having to add new things to every single one of their weapon, because you have to keep adding, and there's no choices there. There's no build crafting. It's basically just decided for you, like, this new enchant exists, you have to use it, go get it. And while you can make the same argument for attributes, if they added a new meta attribute or something, you would have to go put it on the stuff if you're trying to be efficient. I think attributes are actually a way more complex system that allows for a much more specialized build crafting, because you're only allowed to have 2 at any time on any weapon or armor piece. We don't currently know how you're going to apply attributes to new items, but I'd assume that there is going to be some kind of cost to unlock a slot to put an attribute, or it would be a cost just to get the base version of the attribute on an item, and then you have to put in a lot more money than enchants and a lot more time than enchants to get these attributes onto your pieces. And this should lead to people not having as linear of a build path. You're not going to have the exact same weapons from every single person, because attributes are a little more specific. If you were doing something like Enderman, you'd probably want to run an attribute that increases your Enderman damage, and you can't just throw that on and have smite and have cubism and have all of that. You actually have to make choices. So you'd have to put on Ender and Elite if you're doing Enderman Slayer, and if you're trying to use your weapon for something else, you would have to have a full separate one, or you just have to be dealing less damage than someone who is using an attribute that makes them deal more damage to undead people for their Revenant Slayers and things like that. This build crafting is something that Skyblock has been lacking for a while, and they've been trying to make people do, but without attributes, it is very hard for them to actually let people build craft. I mean, seriously, attributes are a great system that are just basically fully neutered by the fact that they released on only Crimson Isle pieces of gear. Because as I said, the Crimson Isle pieces of gear right now are not great stats. Aurora and Crimson and the armor, they're actually okay. But when you're looking at weapons that currently have attributes, it is absolutely terrible. You have like Enrager, the Ragnarok Axe, the Fire Freeze Wand. Most of them make zero use out of the attributes, so that's why you've seen weapon attributes be so low of price until right now, where people realize that they could actually be able to use them on useful weapons, and they realize that the system could actually be useful. Not only will they be useful, but they will be accessible, because the Crimson Isle is the least accessible part of all of Hypixel Skyblock. When you're looking at the max attribute stuff, people are getting it from just Kudra pretty much, and if you're looking at the player counts on the server, Kudra is one of the least played things, even though it's making decent money, because not many people are able to do it. Sure, an endgame player like myself can burn through a Kudra tier like it's no problem, but most players have never had any attribute above like level 2, because it's either too expensive or just something that they aren't even thinking about accessing, because why would they put attributes on anything when the armor that they're using isn't going to be used outside of the Crimson Isle? Because dungeons is where a lot of people spend their time, and right now there's no reason to go for attributes outside of equipment for dungeons. The admin said that they will be adding attributes to before the Crimson Isle with the progression if this update does release, and that means that we'd probably get a new NPC in the hub, a bunch of new earlier game attributes. Obviously, some will still be linked to the Crimson Isle. I'd assume ones from tier 5 Kudra will not just start dropping from killing normal wolves in the hub or something. They're not just going to be dropping dropping like hotcakes, but they are going to be available in other parts of the game. And with that, you can assume that they would add new attributes. I'm talking mining attributes, farming attributes, foraging attributes. All of these are possible if they add them to the rest of the game, but if they keep it just linked to the Crimson Isle, we're pretty much going to be stuck with the combat and fishing attributes that we have right now, and you're not going to see that cool level of build crafting be touched in the other portions of the game. So do some of the attributes need to be balanced? Yes. Will there be a tiny bit of power creep? Possibly. But do I think that overall this will be a great change for the game? Absolutely. I think anything that adds build crafting and a bit more specificity in any player's armor and weapons is going to be a good change that will be looked back on positively, because right now you see a lot of players looking exactly the same with the exact same setups for every single thing, and that is just not a very fun MMORPG kind of game. You want to see some difference in builds. You want to see some cool, unique things that could pop up, such as wearing mushroom armor with Magic Find 10 attribute at night, giving the most Magic Find possible out of any armor set. You like seeing fun things like that, and that currently can't happen without attributes being spread throughout the game. So I think they should definitely do this change, and I don't get why a lot of people are so against this change, because I think if you look back on this in about a year, you're going to think, wow, I can't believe we had a time where attributes weren't on every single armor set, because this has allowed me to be a lot cooler in the game, especially once they add a lot more attributes throughout the game. So that is basically my thoughts on the pros and cons of attributes coming to every single item. Let me know down below what you think, because this has been a topic of mild controversy in the community. Some people are raving about it, some people are hating about it. So there are different opinions, and I want to hear yours, but that's going to be it for the video. I will talk to you in the next one. Peace out.